Okay, back for segment 4, the final segment for the Sports Circus. This segment is brought to you by the Social Register. Again, we're helping them out there. The Social Register of Las Vegas. Again, the only private business networking organization in Las Vegas, bringing decision makers together for over 23 years. Call them today, 702-256-0123, or visit them online at socialregister.com. Also, a special shout to my friends that took over Seattle Dan's Pizza. The Seattle Dan's Pizza was recently sold to a couple of fine ladies, Laura and Deb, I believe her name is. Great people. They're keeping the product the same. They're keeping everything the same. I just want them to make sure they turn that television onto TV land so when I walk in I can watch the Munsters again. but everything's the same. Actually, they've really improved the place, and good for them. Good place. Been around for 17 years, and they're going to keep it around hopefully another 17. Okay, Alicia. So here we go. Back to women not getting what they're supposed to get in basketball because the WNBA and the NBA have colluded not to pay them what they're supposed to in equal pay, according to the Equal Pay Act of 1963, which is a Federal Trade Commission statute. It's an act, not a statute. It's the Act of 1963. Look it up, ftc.gov. So, Alicia, out of all the promos you had, the jersey sales, you've had a bobblehead. I don't know anybody else has had a bobblehead. Can you imagine a bobblehead with this head?
That's a big,
right?
Big slow bobblehead.
Well, imagine Billy. Billy's like this.
Oh, yeah.
Billy's like, a float at the circus.
They'd have to rename it. It wouldn't be a bobblehead.
On the parade. Billy, right. He's that thing going down.
The
right?
fat head.
You got people holding it by strings, right? Just like, or not strings, but giant ropes. Anyway.
Right.
So you've had a bobblehead, you've had jersey sales, but you haven't been given what you're supposed to be given on the court. And now how has that affected your jersey sales off the court because you're not a high-profile paid player, but you are a high-profile player?
Well, I mean, it's just the bringing the attention to yourself as a player and being a franchise player, which I was at for the Indiana Fever. I was known as one of the top 3 players, but when you don't get the pay, you don't get the recognition, you don't get the things that you deserve as that player, you kind of fall by the wayside. People aren't necessarily wanting to spend the money when they don't see your face.
Right. Well, they don't see your face also because the WNBA hasn't spent the money. They've been hoarding all the money. They haven't spent the money to promote you and your teammates and the team, etc. They'll maybe do a 30-second spot here or there, but they won't give it the glitz and the sex appeal that they do the NBA, what they do with their teams.
Well, they promote certain players. It's not always the players. So each team is going to select, a couple of players that are going to be the face of the team.
Right.
But a lot of times it's not the players that are the best on the team. It's the players that they want to make the sweetheart of the team, so to speak. And so the best player on the team might be this one down here, but she doesn't have the long hair, the look or necessarily that they want to promote. And so this happens a lot in the league as well.
But see, this is about basketball. It's not about long hair and pretty smiles. This is about women's competition. It's not a beauty contest.
Right.
Right? So you're out there balling. That's what you're doing. It has nothing to do with your sex appeal and all this other crap. It has to do with your ability on the court. And you know what I never hear of? I never hear of women getting out of line and making a media spectacle of themselves either. Have you? Really?
No, we don't do that. I mean, there's very rare cases. I mean, there's some big things that have happened in the league that have gotten media attention, but you don't hear it as often as you do on the men's side.
But off the court, you don't hear about it.
No.
You just don't hear. So you have a very well-behaved group of women that are out there playing because they love to play, and it certainly isn't for the money because they're getting robbed, right?
Right.
But they're playing because they love to play. Why shouldn't the NBA allow 2 women to be on every team, right? You got 12 players on the NBA teams. Why shouldn't 2 out of 12 be allowed to play with the men? If they're that good, they should be allowed to play. And I don't care if they're sitting on a bench, but they should have the right to play. And that comes back to equal pay and equal exposure in the media.
Well, I mean, you've said you that's been a topic of discussion as well. As I don't know if you know that Brittany Griner was actually being accosted by Mark Cuban. And when she was coming out a few years ago.
Mark Cuban, the guy. Mark Cuban, are you talking about the guy? Wait a minute. Mark Cuban, isn't that the guy that just threw games? He tanked, and he admitted that on Dan Patrick's show that he did everything he could to lose games. That Mark Cuban? The one that
Mark
never,
Cuban,
he didn't lose draft picks and he didn't get fined millions of dollars for that? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Please continue.
Yes, that Mark Cuban. So he was actually the first coach that I've ever heard say that a woman could play for his team. But then you think about that, you go to saying, okay, there's women who are good enough to play for an NBA team, and then you're going to have some guys that say, okay, well, if they're good enough to come play with us, then why can't we play with them? And this is the issue. You know, having guys to play on a WNBA team is like, if you're going to let somebody come and play football, like you're going to let a girl come and play on a football team, we should be able to hit her hard because she's playing on the football team.
Hold that thought, because it says National Basketball Association. It doesn't say MNBA.
Right. That's true.
Therefore, they're discriminating against women because national does not imply it's men. It's national.
Right.
But there is a W placed in front of the women's, and why is that? That's not fair, because it's not the MNBA, therefore it should just be the NBA, period. Right or wrong?
I like the women's NBA.
But my point is, if there was an M in front of NBA, then they're creating a men's league only.
Separation.
But what they didn't do is they did not put an M in front of it. Therefore, women should be able to play in the NBA. Right or wrong?
I agree. I agree. And you remember Nancy Lieberman-Klein was the first woman that played. So Nancy Lieberman-Klein held her own. You know, I think it was the ABL that she played in back then. But she was the first woman that actually played in the men's league and did really, really well. So it's been proven that it can be done. I don't know why now they want to, prevent that from happening, because there are women out there who are good enough to ball. I used to play with guys growing up, played ball at the rec. We play against the guys. And so we're capable. We're very capable.
They're certainly capable, and I just think that if you're going to allow one to do something, you have to allow everybody to do it. So the NBA is, in my opinion, is guilty of discriminating against women. They have violated the Equal Pay Act. They have violated the Civil Rights Act of 1994 and the amendments from 1991 as well. So the NBA has a lot of explaining to do. I can't wait until somebody gives a reasonable explanation as to why they've been getting away with this for so very long, and nobody has really pushed the envelope on this. So you heard it here on the Sports Circus. We're going to follow up on this, and I hope some action really happens, because A, it's not fair to people like Alicia Thompson, our WNBA champion co-host, and the hundreds of women that are out there playing in the WNBA today, and all those that have played previous to them from the start of the league moving forward. So that being said, boy, we have sure covered a lot, Alicia. And we're going to pick this up at 5 p.m. Pacific on 670 The Score in Las Vegas and on KCAA in Southern California. Until then, talk to you soon.